Sometimes two shows can share their very DNA. These sister shows often air on the same network, and if they don't share crew members, they at least worked together in the past. Sister shows aren't very subtle about it, and they're prone to crossing over or sharing a universe. But what's really interesting, and perhaps even unintentional, is that they may even have the exact same endings. Generator Rex is inextricably linked to Ben 10. Both these Cartoon Network shows were made by Man of Action, and the Heroes United crossover is hailed as one of the best episodes of Ben 10, despite actually being a Generator Rex episode. This crossover was also unique because it was canon to both shows. Ben unlocks Shock Squatch and then proceeds to use him throughout Omniverse, and when Alpha destroys the Bug Jar, it is shown to still be destroyed in the finale of Generator Rex. There's also a follow-up comic with Rex visiting Ben's universe. Interestingly, Omniverse would also have a crossover with the Secret Saturdays in the episode TGIS, with this one not involving alternate dimensions, and takes place 3 years after the ending of the Secret Saturdays, so that Zack is aged up to 16 like Ben, which means he's also the same age as Rex. The Secret Saturdays had a bunch of Ben 10 references, and Zack's mom shows up in the Harem episode, meaning this crossover was also canon to both shows. Apparently, it was even going to be revealed that one of Zack's ancestors founded the Plumbers with George Washington in Omniverse's finale. However, the Secret Saturdays did not share a crew with any of the Ben 10 shows, and the crossover aired long after the series had ended, so unlike Generator Rex, they aren't sister shows. I just thought it was worth noting. While Ben 10 has endured the test of time, Generator Rex never received the same love from the network, though its link to Ben 10 does give it an avenue to return. One of the final episodes of the reboot, Ben Gen 10, featured a reboot version of Rex, this time not from a parallel universe. That was a very obvious backdoor pilot for a rebooted Generator Rex. Despite loving Heroes United, the body horror was a little too creepy for me to give the show a shot while it was airing. And now, deleted video from Crow the Artist recommending 5 shows, including my goat, Code Lyoko, convinced me to give it a try, and I binged it during the pandemic. But as I watched it, I noticed something odd. The ending felt familiar. Tell me if you've heard this before. The 16-year-old protagonist obtains godlike power after draining it from the villains who had first stolen it for themselves. The villain then tries to tempt the hero into succumbing to the power. Instead, the hero uses the power to cure every person on the planet. Lastly, the hero decides that this is too much power for any one person and relinquishes it, keeping just their regular power set. This is exactly how Ben 10 Ultimate Alien ended. This is particularly conspicuous because Ultimate Alien was the version that crossed over with Generator Rex and Heroes United. Their finales, The Ultimate Enemy and Endgame, were both two-parters that released in March 2012. Was this coincidence or an intentional parallel theme? Man of Action wasn't particularly involved with Ultimate Alien. We don't know when exactly Generator Rex's finale was written, but we do have more definitive info for Ultimate Aliens. Dwayne McDuffie said the outline for the finale was finished by October 31st, 2010. And the recently released script drafts prove that this ending was definitely in place by January 2011. Whether or not it's intentional, these episodes were probably written around the same time, so I doubt one copied the other. This isn't the only time this has happened, though my next example is a lot more well-known. Amphibia and the Owl House both aired on Disney at the same time. Both feature teenage girls isekai'd into a magical dimension, and their crews had previously worked together on Gravity Falls, with the 3 shows seeming to share the same Earth. There's even a voiced but non-animated story where Luce meets Anne while trying to get her portal to work. The shows were always counterparts, but the cliffhangers of the second season finales are where it really became conspicuous. Both end with the protagonists finally being transported home, but only as a catastrophe is brewing in the magical world. Some of their fantastical friends are also forced to flee with them, and they can't open another portal. This makes their third seasons invert the formula of the first 2, where now their friends are the fish out of water, and now they have to figure out how to leave Earth. To really hammer it home, the Easter egg that confirms their shared universe is a newspaper clip in the Season 2 finale of Owl House, referencing the events of the Season 3 finale of Amphibia. Still, flipping the script like this wasn't too far-fetched of a concept for shows like these. But the series finales are what really cemented this as borderline mimetic. After returning to the fantasy world to face off against the body-snatching antagonist, the hero dies, speaks to the god of their world, and is resurrected and granted a temporary super form to defeat the villain. The only difference is that Luce dies before getting the power, whereas using the power is what killed Anne. The shows then finish with a time skip. That is also quite similar. What's interesting is how the epilogues of the shows seem to be deliberate contrasts. Amphibia ends with the worlds permanently separated, a lesson about growing up and the bittersweetness of leaving childhood behind. The Owl House briefly teases this, but then reveals that Luce travels between the worlds all the time, a lesson about the value in finding the people where you can feel at home with, even if it's not what society would expect from you. The similar endings of Ultimate Alien and Generator Rex don't really serve a purpose other than to double down on the theme of the dangers of too much power. If the similarities were deliberate, they weren't obvious enough to gain notoriety. The Owl House and Amphibia seemed like a lot more deliberate, though, because of how differently the protagonists ended up. There's enough stranger in another world stories out there that it becomes cliche whether the protagonist has to choose a world to stay in forever, which risks ending the show on too bitter of a note, or the protagonist can live in both worlds, which risks coming across as too easy of a solution to the story's dilemma. But by having two shows set up a similar ending and then taking different routes, they essentially get to have it both ways. The emotional impact is heightened because we see what the other outcome could have been. I think the reason that the shared endings of Ultimate Alien and Generator X don't come across as meaningfully is that neither was meant as an actual ending. Omniverse was already in production by the time UA was wrapping up, and it ends with Ben receiving the new Omnitrix. Meanwhile, Generator Rex was cut short by the network, even though it clearly had more it wanted to do, as some of Rex's villains are teased to keep their powers. The finale didn't even air on TV until a year after its release online, further distancing it from being as closely associated with Ultimate Alien. Of course, you don't have to be sister shows to have the same ending. Although I haven't seen the latter, since I'm more of a cartoon guy, Star vs. the Force of Evil notably ended on the same day as Game of Thrones. And they had the same ending, in that they were so terrible they retroactively ruined the rest of their shows.